Hi, and welcome to Crafts with Ash DIY and Decor. My name's Ashley, and today I'm going to bring you 5 last-minute Kirkland's dupes. Now, if you're like me and you love a good dupe, this is definitely the video for you. This video contains some of my most favorite DIYs I've made this Christmas season. First, if you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that little notification bell so you can get notified anytime I upload a new video. Also, click the drop-down menu and click all so you're notified about all notifications. All right, let's get started with our first Kirkland's dupe. For the first dupe, I'm going to use these 2 black signs that I got from the Dollar Tree around Halloween time. And you can see that I already cut one of the pumpkins off of the sign. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut the other one off of the other sign. Now, if you don't have these signs, the Dollar Tree has these long boards all the time. So you can just take 2 and paint them black. You can even leave them the same size. I just wanted to take the pumpkin off because pumpkin really doesn't go with my Christmas decor. So I'm just using my little utility knife to go ahead and score it a bunch of times, and then eventually it does break off. And then I'm just going to take my scissors and just cut off any of the excess board that was on there, like the MDF board. And then to really make it nice and smooth, I'm going to take this sanding block and sand it down. And I'm just going to continue to clean up this edge until I get it how I like. All right, after I have both boards ready to go, I'm going to flip them over. And don't mind the one on top. I actually dry brushed some paint over it because I was going to use it for a different DIY and never did. But this is going to be the back, and all I'm doing is just cutting up some of those craft sticks, and I'm just going to hot glue them to the back to glue the 2 pieces together. After that's over, I'm going to flip my piece over and put that off to the side. Next, I'm going to take an assortment of different tree cutouts. So I have these 2 wood tree cutouts. I have this little tree that came from a holder, and there was another side, but I used the tree for something else. So I'm just going to use my little blade to cut that off. And then I also have this big metal tree that I will be using as well. So after I have all my trees ready to go, I'm going to choose an assortment of scrapbook paper. So this is the scrapbook paper I'm going to use, and I did get it in a pack from Hobby Lobby. And then I'm going to use that burlap sheet that you saw as well. So right now, I'm actually going to cut the star off of these wood Christmas trees because I don't want it to actually look like a decorated Christmas tree. I just want it to look like a tree. So I'm going to cut the tips or the star off, and then I'm going to sand it down. And then I'm just going to start tracing these trees on random scrapbook papers. So I'm just kind of going through this real fast for you because I don't think you need to watch me trace all these trees, but I just made sure to have, one of the big wood cutouts on each piece, and then this one's going to be that plaid. So I just kind of mixed up all of my scrapbook pieces of paper, and now I'm going to cut them all out. So I did do a rough cut around the big wooden pieces. Now for the other piece that I got off that holder, I'm actually just going to glue that right to the board. I'm not even going to put it on the wood. The inspiration image had some adhered right to the wood, and then some were to the board, and then some were 3D. So you're going to see that I'm going to Mod Podge the scrapbook paper on some of the wood pieces, and then the others I'm just going to leave as paper. I hope that makes sense. So after I have all of my trees cut out of the scrapbook paper, I'm going to go ahead and add some Mod Podge to the back of these big wood trees. And then I'm going to adhere my Christmas tree right on top. And then I'm going to do the same with the other wood piece. And then I'm going to Mod Podge the bigger piece of scrapbook paper onto the metal tree. Real quick, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to my YouTube channel. If you're new, thank you so much for choosing to stop by today. I really hope you choose to stick with me by hitting that subscribe button. If you're returning, you already know I love you and I appreciate you. And I want to thank all of you for the overwhelming support I received on my last video announcing that we bought a new house. Just to update you, we are in the new house and it's taking all my might to not just start putting up all the Christmas stuff everywhere, but I do actually need to unpack, boxes and stuff. So, but after this video today, the rest of the videos until Christmas are going to be decorating videos. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for that. Okay, so after I have all of my scrapbook paper glued on, I'm just going to take this little nail file and I'm just going to file the, or sand the edges. That way it's a nice clean cut. Now when you do this, you want to go in the down direction so you get all the excess paper off. And I'm going to do that to those 2 wood pieces and that metal piece. Next, I'm going to take my blackboard and I'm going to just kind of play around with all of these different trees and kind of try to decide where I want them to go, how to lay them out. So you can see I'm overlapping them. And then I realized that those 2 smaller trees had to go on the actual board because they had to be Mod Podged on the board. So you can see I'm just kind of playing with it and just laying them all out. So after I had all of my trees laid out how I think I'm going to keep them, I'm going to take this burlap sheet that I got from Hobby Lobby, and it is in their scrapbooking section, and I'm just going to cut out 2 triangles to create 2 more little trees. Now I waited to do this until I had all these trees laid out so I knew, proportion wise where I wanted it all to go. So once I had my triangles cut out, I'm going to go ahead and start attaching all of my trees to my board. So those 2 paper trees, I'm just going to go ahead and Mod Podge right down. And I am making sure that the bottom of the tree is at the bottom of the board. I'm sorry, I know it's a little cut off at the bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and Mod Podge the other tree back on. And then I'm just going to use some hot glue and I'm going to hot glue the 2 wood pieces on. Now they did end up hanging off the sides a little bit, but that's okay. That didn't really bug me. And I didn't mean to do it on purpose, but that's just kind of how it landed. So I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue the 2 wooden ones on the ends. And then to do the metal one, hot glue and metal do not mix, so it wouldn't have worked. So I'm using these glue dots, and I gotta say, they worked pretty well. So I'm just putting those glue dots everywhere, and you can get these from the Dollar Tree or any craft store to go ahead and adhere that on. Okay, so I kind of thought like the triangles looked really weird without stems. So now I'm just taking some mini craft sticks and cutting them down to make a stem. And then I'm going to take a baby wipe, dip it in some Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm going to faux stain those little stems. Then I'm just going to simply hot glue that onto the back of my little tree. And I'm going to do this for both of my little burlap trees. I really loved adding this little touch because it did add some texture to this board, and also the inspiration photo had one too. So I thought that, it just gave something more for the eye to look at. So now I'm going to go ahead and do my second one, and you can see that the burlap trees, they're different sizes, so I thought that that was really neat too. And then I just thought that the burlap kind of stuck out like a sore thumb because all of the other scrapbook paper was so rustic looking and distressed. So I'm just going to go around the edges and dab some Waverly Antique Wax all over it. Okay, so the final step is I applied this decal to the top, and I did cut this out of my Cricut, but if you don't have a Cricut, you can use stencils, sticker letters, you can hand write it on there, whatever you have for lettering. And it says, "Joy to the world," just like the inspiration photo. So I just added it on top. Now the font I could not find to be the exact same as the inspiration photo, but I thought that this was really neat. So I'm just going to go ahead and varnish that on. And then once my wording was down, this sign was complete. I really, really loved how this came out in all the colors. So here's the Kirkland's one. Forgive me, it is just a screenshot. I'm really sorry. So Kirkland's is offering theirs for $17.99. Now you can see that I did switch up the patterns to fit more of my decor style, but like I said, I really love how this came out. What do you think? This next dupe is so easy. So I picked up this little wooden sled from the Dollar Tree, and I also picked up the little gnome that you can kind of see off to the side there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to dry brush some of that Waverly Antique wax all over the sled. Now the inspiration piece was just natural wood, but I don't know, I just, you know me, I just had to kind of make it look a little bit more rustic. Now the cool thing that I really liked about this was that I'm actually dabbing that brush onto a baby wipe, so it's kind of making it a little wet. So I really liked the look that this gave. It really, you know, made it look like natural wood and with all the different tones, and I really loved how that came out. So after I had my sleigh done, I'm telling you, this DIY was so easy. So after I had all of my Waverly wax on, I'm just going to take my little gnome, and I am going to cut off the hanger on top because we won't be needing it. Then I'm just going to kind of fix him up a little bit. He was kind of falling apart, so I just hot glued the hat back on his nose, and there's like some extra threads hanging down, fixing up his beard, you know, making him look good. And then I'm simply going to hot glue him on top of the sled. Now I am going to put a generous amount of hot glue down so that he stays. But then I'm also going to take that twine piece right there, and I'm going to hot glue it to his hands so it looks like he's holding on to the sled and he's sled riding. So this one turned out almost exactly like the original piece from Kirkland's, and I really love it. I think he's so cute, and this would also be perfect to go on a tiered tray as well if that's something that you know want to do. So like I said, this one was so quick and easy and so much fun, and it only cost $2 to make. So you honestly cannot beat that. And look how adorable he came out. So cute. All right, so here is the one from Kirkland's, and they are selling theirs for $18.75. Not bad. Now, their gnome did have feet, but I gotta say, I thought mine came out pretty darn close to the original. What do you think? For the next DIY, you might remember this easel that I had at Halloween, and on the back is a fall saying. Well, I was really sad that I didn't pick up another easel or didn't have another one to make a Christmas sign, but then I got the idea to make an insert. So I could make a bunch of inserts and just change them out per holiday or season. So to do this, I took a piece of foam board and I am just cutting it down so it fits inside of the easel. So I'm going to draw, of course, my marks with the pencil, and then I'm just going to take this blade and I'm just going to go ahead and cut it down so it fits. Now, I cut it down so it fits snug, so that way it just literally can just pop right in there and stay. So once I had the basic shape cut out, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of stick it in and test it and make some cuts wherever I need if it was too big or, you know, whatever I needed to do. And then I did sand down the edges with my sanding block until I got the perfect fit. And you can see that it just literally pushes right in there. So it's definitely going to work. So the only foam board I had was black. Clearly, if you buy white, it would make your life so much easier and you would not have to paint your whole board white. So I ended up having to paint my whole board white because that's all I had and I didn't really want to run to the store. So now I'm going to use these decals that I actually got from Walmart, and right now I'm just placing them down because I just want to just check out my positioning and make sure that I like how it looks and, you know, stuff like that. So I thought that this decal was amazing and I've been waiting for something to make with it. So when I saw the original piece on the Kirkland's website, I knew this is what I was going to do. So on that original piece, they had I think they're called French stripes, where it's like the skinny stripe, the fat stripe, and then the skinny stripe again. So this was my first time actually making these, and no, they're not perfect, and it probably would have worked better if I had washi tape, because as you can see, I have to cut a piece of this painter's tape down the middle. So you're going to see that it's going to make it uneven for the fat stripe. So I end up having to turn it. Anyway, it was a whole thing. If you're going to do this, I would just recommend maybe getting some washi tape because I think that would be so much easier. So I'm just going to go ahead and make all of my little stripes. And yes, you know, where I did cut, it is rough on the edges, but I'm not actually going to stencil in there yet. I'm just lining up my skinny pieces. And the decals are not Mod Podged down yet. I just have them laying there so I can make sure that I have enough room. So then again, I'm going to go ahead and add my skinny stripe to my board. Make sure it's all lined up. Now you can actually measure and make sure all your stripes are the same width, but you know me, I don't measure, I just eyeball. So next, I'm just going to take a little piece of a foam brush and some of that red apple barrel paint, and I'm just going to go ahead and do the two skinny stripes. And I did do 2 coats of that, letting them dry in between. So then after the second coat was dry, I just peeled up the one in the middle, so it now has the straight edge. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side, and this is going to create the fat stripe. So I'm just turning it around. Now, if you had washi tape, you would not have to do that because it'll be straight on each side. So that's why I said it's probably easier with washi tape. Now, again, I'm just kind of eyeballing this, making sure it's even on both sides. Then I'm going to go in with my red apple barrel paint, and I'm going to paint on the inside of the stripe. And again, I am going to do 2 coats. So once that was completely dry, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the painter's tape, but I'm not going to throw it away because I'm going to do this same thing at the bottom as well. Now the bottom came out kind of wonky, but it's okay. It is what it is. Like I said, this was my first time actually making these stripes, so I was just kind of making it up as I went. Now for the bottom, I did attempt to measure, as you can see, but then I just gave up because I'm like, you know what? I just can't get it to work. So I'm just gonna go for it, and just whatever happens, happens. So you're gonna see the one stripe ends up a little bit too far away from the other, but hey, that's okay. So then after I had my tape down, I'm gonna go through and put my paint on. Then once that's dry, I'm gonna flip over the painter's tape in the middle to make that big stripe. And like I said, I tried to measure those, but it just wasn't happening. So then after that's dry, I'm going to go ahead and pull up all my tape, and now I'm done with the tape. And you're going to see the one line is way far away, but then look what happened when I peeled up this part. So the paper, like from the foam board, actually peeled up. So I will fix that in just a second. You won't be able to tell unless you're super, super close, but I wanted to leave it in so you could see how I make mistakes and fix them too, just in case it ever happens to you. So now I'm very carefully peeling up the painter's tape, and there we go. Holding my breath the whole time. And then I'm going to take a really small brush and some white paint, and I'm just going through and just kind of touching it up wherever the red paint got that it shouldn't have been. So you can see down at the bottom that one of the stripes is kind of far out there, but hey, it is what it is. Guess it just makes it look more rustic, doesn't it? So now I'm just going to go through and clean up my board with that white paint. And then it's time to lay out the decals. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to coat this entire middle section with Mod Podge. Now, I shouldn't have done this quite yet. I should have laid it all out first and then put the decals on, and then put the Mod Podge on, but that's okay. So I put the Christmas trees in the middle, and then the trees. I was still able to move them around, so it wasn't that bad. So I'm just going to position them how I like. I cannot wait till you see the end result. I love this sign. And then I'm going to do the fresh cut on top. Then once I have it looking how I like, I'm going to go ahead and Mod Podge. And while I was at it, I went ahead and Mod Podged that piece down that came up. And like I said, unless you're really close, you really can't tell. So now I'm going to go ahead and put a good coat of Mod Podge over the decals so it helps it stay down. And this easel is actually going to be used on my front porch this year, and hopefully that will be the next video coming out. So I am super excited to decorate my front porch. In fact, as I am doing this voiceover, it is our first night in our new home. So I had all the movers keep all my front porch decor on my porch. I said, don't even take it in. I got to record a video. So here's the thing. Once I painted it, I think it kind of shrunk a little bit because it wasn't that perfect fit that it was. So I figured, well, if I put painter's tape on the back, I can just carefully take the insert off and it won't do anything to the board underneath. So that's what I did. So I just ended up putting some painter's tape on the back and then pushing it down. And I loved how this was looking. However, it was a little too clean for my taste. So I'm just going to take that chunky brush. I'm going to dip it in that Waverly Antique Wax, dab it off on a baby wipe, and I'm just kind of dry brushing that Waverly Antique Wax over it. You knew I had to make this more antique looking. Now, the original piece is just pure white, and if that's your style, that is totally fine. I just really wanted it to look a little bit more rustic. But after that, this easel was complete. Here is the Kirkland's piece, and I like that, but I did not like the farmhouse, which is why I changed it up. But I gotta say, I really love mine. What do you think? This next dupe is another super easy one. So I'm starting off with these rulers from the Dollar Tree, and they do come as a set of 2. And I'm just taking off the little sticky measuring part. And then I need to attach these 2 together because I just needed one long piece. Now, I did try a painter stick. It was not long enough. So this was the only thing that I had that I could think of to use. But if you just have one big solid piece of wood, then definitely do that. So as you saw, I hot glued the 2 pieces together. And now I'm going to use my spackle to go ahead and fill in those holes because we're not going to need those holes. Then I'm going to sand it down so it's nice and smooth. Now, I will be adding something underneath to give it more support. So, because I did notice that it was kind of flimsy. But first, I wanted to stain this. So, again, I'm just going to dip my baby wipe into the lid, or the Waverly Wax, and I'm just going to faux stain this entire piece. And I really am trying to get in those holes so they darken up a little bit too. Now here's where I realized, okay, I need to add something to the back. So this is a really mini craft stick, and when I flip this over, it's so mini and it's so thin that it really didn't make it uneven, like wobbly. So it seemed to really help. Now I'm pulling out these letters from the Dollar Tree, and they spell out Merry Christmas. Now you will need several packages because it's only 1 letter per package. So as you see, I have at least 2 packages. And I'm going to do the little painter's trick idea that I usually do, and I love doing this because it helps keep your hands mess free. And I'm just going to paint all of the letters white. So as you can see, you just curl in the bottoms of the painter's tape, put it on your surface, and then you just paint it away. So brilliant. So after those were dry, I'm going to go ahead and lay them out, and then I'm going to take my big wood piece back out, and I'm just going to start playing with it and laying them out so they all the letters fit across that wood piece. So I'm going to move them as I need and just make sure that they are where I want them to be. Then once I do have them, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue each letter to the top of the ruler, so they're standing up. Now you do need to apply a good amount of hot glue to each one of these. That way they stand up, and you kind of have to hold it there for a little bit until the glue sets so they don't fall backwards like that one. So I just used hot glue and applied the rest of my letters. This is your friendly reminder that if you're loving what you see so far, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Not only does it really help my channel to grow, but it tells YouTube that you love my content and you want to see more. So please smash that like button. So in the corner there, I don't know if you caught it, but little Elsa was dancing, my little daughter. All right, so now after I had all my letters glued on, I flipped it to the back, and you can see that I'm reinforcing all of the letters with some hot glue. So when I flipped this back around, I realized that there was a big gap between the Merry and the Christmas, and I accidentally made the words kind of further apart, and I didn't really love it. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to take this little wooden tree that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to dry brush some white paint over it, and then I'm just going to glue that in between the big gap. Now, the original piece did not have this, but I just felt like it needed something. It was really going to mess with my OCD. I'm really not even OCD, but it's just really going to mess with me if, I had to look at that big gap. So I just went ahead and I hot glued the tree a little behind the letters, the C and the Y, and then I just went ahead and added some hot glue to those letters, hot gluing it to the tree itself. Then to top this off, I went ahead and made a small twine bow. Oh, I forgot, I did distress that as well. And I did distress all the letters. I must have skipped that step. But I just kind of brushed some Waverly Antique Wax over all of it. Then, like I said, I'm going to top this off with a little twine bow at the top of the tree, and that's also to hide the hole that was there. So I'm just going to hot glue that on, cut off the tails, and then this little piece was complete. And like I said, it was super easy to do, and I used everything I already had in my craft stash. So I really love how cute this came out, and if you're a farmhouse person, you probably love this too. So this is their version, their original $22.49, not bad, and I really love it, but I really love mine too. What do you think? For the last Kirkland's dupe, I'm going to take this little family sign, and it's like a 3D sign, and I really love the frame of it, but I don't need the family. So what I'm doing is just taking my knife, and I'm just cutting off all the parts that actually touch the base around, or the frame around it. So if this was easy to do, it just was kind of time consuming because you just gotta, score until it lets you just finally break it off. Now there was no saving this word in one piece, so I just had to settle with the fact that I was gonna have to throw that away. So, and then I just kind of took my knife and just cleaned up the inside edges a little bit so I had a nice box frame. Now I'm going to go ahead and sand down all the inside edges to make it nice and smooth. Then I'm going to actually pop that frame off, and you're going to see that I accidentally break it here in a second. See, it just totally broke on that one side. And then also the one side actually comes off with it, which is fine. It actually made it easier for me to paint. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I took out that little pink piece of paper, and now I'm just going to paint the inside, bottom, and the sides, the inside sides with white Waverly chalk paint. And I did give this 2 coats. So once I had the base done, I'm not going to paint the frame, but like I said, one of the sides of the box actually came off, so I needed to paint that as well. Next, I'm going to put that aside, and then I'm going to take this Metal Believe word that came in a pack from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to give it 2 coats of the red paint from Apple Barrel. Once my word was completely dry, I'm going to go ahead and put some Mod Podge on my word, and then I'm going to sprinkle some glitter on. Now, the original piece had the glitter, that's why I'm doing it, but if you're not a glitter person, you can absolutely skip this step. But, you know, for Christmas, I think glitter is kind of fun. So I'm just going to Mod Podge and glitter this whole word. Once that was done, I'm going to go ahead and take the box back out, and I'm going to just put a ruler in the middle and draw 2 lines on either side to make it look like faux shiplap. And then I'm just going to lightly brush some white paint over it so they're not so stark black, because I had to use my permanent marker because I couldn't find my pencil, and that's what I usually use. So then after that's done, it's time to go ahead and put the frame back on. So I'm just going to hot glue the frame back onto the top of the box. And now it's time to go ahead and glue the word in the box. So I'm going to use a combination of this super glue and hot glue because, like I said earlier, metal and hot glue don't work together. So I'm just going to glue it right in the middle. Now, some of my red paint must not have been completely dry because I did get some red on the white, which I do go through and fix, but just make sure your word is completely dry. So I really didn't like the color of the base, so now I'm just taking my Nutmeg Apple Barrel paint, and I'm just going to paint the whole frame, the sides, and the front. And I really loved how that looked. It actually made it look like wood, and I did 2 coats. So here's where I'm going to go, and I left this in so you can see me again fix my mistake. So this is where the red paint got on to my background, so I just was able to lift up the letter and just repaint over it and then re-glue it down. So, I mean, it's not perfect. Up close you can kind of see that there's a little smudge of red there, but hey, it's just crafting. It's fine. So now I'm just cleaning it up a little bit, making sure my word is stuck down. And after that, this little sign is done. Here is the Kirkland's piece. Of course, I think it is a little bigger. $11.99, not bad, but I love mine. What do you think? I absolutely love how all of these DIYs came out today. Like I said, these ones are probably my top favorite ones through this Christmas season. And I just love the colors of them. I love how rustic they are. And they're just so fun too. You're going to have to let me know down in the comments which piece was your absolute favorite. Will you be attempting to make any of these? Also, let me know, are you done Christmas crafting for the season? Are you still getting your crafts out there? Like I said, you definitely want to be subscribed and turn on the notifications by hitting the bell so you're notified of my next few videos and all my videos, because those are going to be decorate with me videos. So you get to come with me as I decorate my new house for the first time for Christmas, starting this Friday. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Like I said, please subscribe, hit that bell, and give this video a thumbs up. I would truly, truly appreciate it. I hope that you got a lot of ideas and inspiration to create some magical and festive things for your house this Christmas season. Well, until I see you again, I'll craft with you soon. Bye!